Hey, welcome everyone. It's Sharon Sheldon here from Content Sparks, and this is the live demo of Module 2 from our course called How to Build an Email List from Scratch. And the name of this particular module is called Define Your Target Audience. So if that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. And hopefully you're joining me live. If you're watching the replay, terrific. Either way, if you're here live, please interact, put your comments, questions, whatever in the chat. There should be a little kind of chat box that you can see to click on. Hi, William. How you doing? Hey, Kate. Good to see you here. I'll keep an eye on that chat, but Sophia is also in there keeping an eye on things. And also our instructional designer, our new designer who actually designed this particular course, she's here too. That's Kate, and Kate Cobb, and she can answer questions also. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually walk through the slides of the module the way we branded them. So they're going to look different. They're going to look unique from what you would get if you bought the course. And I'm going to just walk through, pause periodically to show you where you can customize it and where you can add interaction, because this is also a really great module to customize, base it on your industry, your audience skill. There's a lot of information out there on ideal customer avatars, also called buyer personas or profiles, ideal customer profiles. Use what you like, the information you prefer, the terminology you prefer. And of course, change the title of the course when you customize it yourself. So let's jump in. The first thing that you would customize is, of course, the title. And that's just kind of an obvious thing you should always do. But the other thing is to do something like this, where you get on camera and you welcome everyone and you tell them, what you're going to be talking about. So hi, everyone, it's Sharon here, and welcome to Module 2. From How to Build an Email List from Scratch. And in this one, we're going to talk about how to create your ideal customer avatar so that you really can step inside your customers' shoes, get inside their minds, talk like them, tailor your content like them, and attract the right people to your list. All right, so you do something like that, and then I'm going to jump in right now to the slides. So let me share my screen for that. Okay, you should see my screen at the moment, and then I'm going to turn off my webcam so that you can just see the slides, okay? So you should see the second slide now, and I'll jump in. So you might think that thanks to the internet, you can reach any potential audience anywhere in the world. This is true in theory, but if you try to attract everyone at once, you can end up attracting no one. So one of the biggest mistakes you can make when you're building your email list is assuming everyone is part of your target audience. But there's no point in building a large list just for the sake of it. A smaller, focused list is going to serve your business a lot better. So in order to be effective with email marketing, you need to identify the people you can help best with your product or service. These are going to be the people you really want to work with and who you want to attract to your list. So in this module, as I mentioned, we're going to drill down to define your ideal customer. You're going to create something called an ideal customer avatar. And again, those are the people you want to attract to your list. So pausing, again, right away from the course. Customizations you can make here is you could make it so that it's not just about list building. All right, you could have a version that's more general to business and kind of separate it out and use it as a whole complete separate module, or you could use it for a different purpose entirely. Like if you're doing a course on blogging, you could make this a module about identifying your ideal blog visitor and then how to come up with topic ideas for your blogs and tailor your writing. So that's just a first customization you can make if you're not doing it as part of the email course. Or even if you are doing it as part of this course, you can separate it out and repurpose it for other courses as well. Okay, so jumping back in again. Knowing exactly who your ideal customer is helps you make the right decisions in your business, because all of your business decisions are made with them in mind. the more comprehensive and individualized your ideal customer avatar is, the better you're going to be able to relate to your audience. You're going to be able to think like them and really feel their emotions. It's almost like you will be them. Like I said, you'll be stepping into their shoes. So even if you've done this before, it's imperative that you don't skip this step in any part of your business, especially what we're talking about here, which is list building. So I'm going to pause again here and say this is a great place to add some interaction. It's a great place to ask a question. So do you have an ideal customer avatar? You can make it a poll and go ahead and put in the comments, do you have, just say yes or no, do you have an ideal customer avatar, or call it a persona or ideal buyer? So Kate says yes, Kate says no, two different Kates. We do. William says yes, Kimberly yes. Oh, terrific. Ted, somewhat. Yeah, you always have to revisit it. This is something that you're going to be able to refine, or at least start. So it's not something that stays the same over time. So I'm going to just take a look. Iris says yes. Terrific. Okay, so even if you don't have one, you're going to be starting. If you have one, you're going to be able to refine it. So let's just jump back in here. Connecting with your audience is a lot simpler when you can speak in a way that resonates with them. You can show that you relate to their problems. You can provide solutions that make their lives easier. And with creating this specific ideal customer avatar, it doesn't mean that you're going to miss out on other business, because that's a big concern a lot of people have. The opposite is often true, and you attract more people because you're more specialized in what you provide. So don't be afraid to get really specific as you build this. So think about it. If you were in the business of dog grooming, you wouldn't want to market to people with pets, all people with pets. You'd choose people with dogs, obviously. So without that specific avatar, you risk being generic and ineffective, and that causes your audience to be confused about whether your content really is for them or not. They might even unsubscribe from your list. So I know this isn't a really easy task. It seems maybe a little overwhelming or challenging, but just trust in the process that we're going to go through, and that all the time you spend identifying your audience is really going to benefit the growth of your email list and your business. So let's jump into the first step, which is actually creating a draft of your ideal customer avatar. Now, this ideal avatar is your vision of the person you really want to work with. And it might be based on someone you already know, like a current ideal customer, or it could be a combination of people. They'll have a name, demographics, and other characteristics that depict who the typical person is that you can help best. And these are the people you want on your list. So some of the things to help you get that first impression of your avatar for your ideal audience is, ask yourselves these questions. Who do I want to target? Who can I help the most? Where do I think I can bring the biggest transformations in their lives? What are their biggest challenges? What problems can I solve? What are their dreams, goals related to their business? So those are different questions to get you started. And now pausing again for a second. First, I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat. Do we have any other problems? Got some sound problems, Jan. Okay, but if refreshing still doesn't get your sound, try checking your speakers and make sure they're on in your settings. Sorry, it sounds like most people are okay. Or log off and log back in, like Robin said. Okay, I'll let you guys work on that while I focus on explaining this. So in this particular one where we're talking about that first draft, there's some customizations you can do to that slide. So the slide was here with the different questions. And then to make it unique, firstly, you can give some relevant examples for each of the questions. So for instance, you could specify in terms of targeting people, as an example, the targeting people, maybe moms going back to work and wanting to start an online business versus just saying, I'm going to target people who want to start an online business. And then who you can help best. You might be able to help best women or mothers who have had a successful professional career before. So when you're going through each of those questions, let me go back to that slide, talking about who do I want to target, who can I help most, go through those. And then let's see, what else did I have? You could talk about the transformation. You could talk about typical results. For this group, the moms, professional moms getting back into work, could be having more income and freedom. That's typical, but also maybe more satisfaction and purpose and growth, more confidence, that kind of thing. Challenges they face could be support at home, being seen as serious, fitting in time around their mom tasks, dealing with fatigue, investment money, general knowledge of online business. So think about what your ideal customer, what their typical challenges are, and then what you can solve related to that. So it could be the tech step-by-step, it could be community support, mindset coaching, things like that. So focus on the challenges. You might look at some of the challenges they have in general, but then focus on the ones that you can solve. And in terms of dreams and goals, step into their shoes, feel what they feel. For this group, they might be dreaming of having purpose and identity beyond being a mom, getting back and having an intellectual challenge again, but still having freedom to be there for their kids. All right, you can also change some of the questions or add to them. For example, you might want to change that dreams and goals one to what keeps them up at night, because also we'll be talking about dreams and goals later. And keep this simple for the first avatar impression, because you don't want to overwhelm people. This is meant to be kind of a beginner's course. Moving on. The other thing you can customize at this point is to ask a question again. So the question you could ask is, can you answer these questions right now about your avatar? So drop that into the chat yourself. You know, some of these questions I said, can you actually go through and answer them? Can you answer what are their dreams and goals? What are their challenges? What transformations can you provide? Things like that. All right, so just drop that in. Think about that, because that's a place. And when it comes to interaction, another point I just want to make is it depends on not only how many people are there live. If you're doing it live, obviously, if you're doing it recorded, you're not going to put these interactive questions in. But if they're there live, sometimes even with a big group, they're going to be very quiet and need to get comfortable. And especially if it's your first time presenting it, you're not going to get as much interaction. Everybody's a little bit different. And a lot of people do end up watching in a replay as well. Okay, so let's jump back in again. So your answers to those questions are going to give you an initial perception of who your ideal customer is. But demographics and psychographics take it a step further in knowing your audience. Now, demographics help you recognize who your audience is, and psychographics are going to tell you about their behavior and their why. So the step 2 you're going to take is to look at your demographics, take that avatar picture a little bit further. So you might think you've identified your audience as maybe women aged 25 to 50, which is pretty broad, but it sounds right. Actually, although gender and age are demographics, that's still way too general and doesn't make for a comprehensive ideal customer avatar. So here are a number of different things that can make up demographics, some of the things you want to look at. There's gender, age, marital status, children, education, income, ethnicity, location, employment status, religion or spiritual belief, hobbies. These are all helpful in knowing who your audience really is. And pausing again here, we're going to look at how to make this particular bit unique. And again, a lot of it is about examples. And if you stick with one scenario throughout, like I did, I picked that moms who were professionals before and are getting back into the workforce, and they want to start an online business. All right. But you want to specify, use that example and give examples of the demographics. So in that case, it was women, maybe they're age 40 to 50. It could be married women or single moms. There are going to be very different needs for both, even though you're focusing on the online business. Very different needs, so focus on one or the other. Children, obviously, since we're talking about moms, they'd have children, but you could be focusing on ones who have younger children versus empty nesters. All right. Education, since I said professional moms, are probably college and post-grad. Work status, maybe they're not working, or maybe they're working part-time and just want to get started with their own online business. So think about what the differences are there and go through and provide some examples. And you can also add, like I said before, you can always add, or you can cut things away to take out that overwhelm, because there are a lot of questions related to demographics. So again, add relevant ones to your audience. What's going to make difference, like location, if you're focusing with people who work with local businesses. And for making it interactive here, ask them what's missing. What would you add to this for the demographics? Go ahead, add it in the chat. What did I miss there? Or what would you take out in terms of demographics? There's a lot of stuff around demographics that you might be able to find online as well. But again, don't overwhelm people. All right, so let's just jump right back in to the course. And step 3 of putting together your ideal customer avatar is the psychographics. So really understanding your customers' why. And this is essential to really personalize your content appropriately. Think of the psychographics as those challenges, dreams, and goals that are important to your ideal customer, because they're going to influence why your customer will buy. And here are some main ones that you can look at, which are going to personalize this avatar for you. You can look at what books do they read, what foods do they like, who do they follow, what films do they watch? What music do they listen to? What kinds of clothes do they wear? What are their core values? How do they view the world? Those are all things that suddenly start painting the picture of a real person. And in terms of making this part unique when you're delivering it, again, a lot of it is about examples and expanding, giving your extra insights. So in terms of expanding on the importance, you can talk more about the emotions and the importance of stepping into customers' shoes. Maybe talk about your experience with your own customers. Like I went and did actual interviews where I got on the phone, and I've done that in the past. And every time I do it, I learn more. And, explain this gives your avatar a personality with likes and dislikes and pet peeves, but talk about it in terms of the relevance to your market. And also talk about how this is something that's done over time, because if your audience has a lot of pushback on this, that say they've done it a little bit, or maybe they've done it before, they don't think they need to do it again, you can talk about how this is something that's done over time. You don't get it right the first time. You always learn a little bit more, and you add to it as you get to know people, especially from direct conversations. And I will talk a little bit later about how you can gather this information. And, again, give the examples. I talked about allaying the concerns about the time involved, but also give examples again. So talking about this group of professional moms who want to get back into the workforce and create an online business. The core values might be family time, giving back to the world, always learning and growing. In fact, we do have a blog post and a course on core values that you could even offer as a resource, as a bonus. So that's just an aside. What books do they read? Maybe they read something like The Lean Startup and Will It Fly if they're focusing on the business. What music do they listen to? Maybe they listen to 80s rock, like Cyndi Lauper and The Police and Huey Lewis and the News, who I heard on the radio recently. Maybe they would like to watch comedy and feel-good movies. They're watching Pretty Woman as their favorite one. No horror movies, since they don't have time for that. Maybe they follow self-help people and women coaches. Like, maybe they're following Stephen Covey, reading 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, or Marie Forleo, who does a lot of self-help and pointers for starting businesses. foods, maybe they're eclectic, clothes, maybe they're in t-shirts and jeans most days since they're at home as a mom. These are all different things that give them a personality. It's not just about, oh, I want more freedom in my life and a purpose. You paint a picture of all the other likes and dislikes. So also, if you're doing B2B, you might talk about the industry and career hopes and challenges. So again, these are all customizations where you just talk about things that you have experience with that are relevant to your audience. So this is what really makes this unique, this kind of content. And again, add or take away questions based on what you think is important, because there are so many things you can ask around the psychographics. And then make it interactive again if you're doing this live. Add a question. What questions would you add here? So depending on your audience, if they're more experienced, they'll have an easier time answering a question like this. If they're beginners, maybe not so much. All right, maybe you could ask them a question just about themselves, like, what's your favorite book? Because it'll also give you a little bit of information about them at the same time. And you can have a bigger discussion around this if you're doing it face-to-face. All right, so add anything else in the chat. You want to share things that you maybe have asked that gave you a good picture of your ideal customers as well, okay? Everybody can still hear me okay here? Yep, okay. Terrific, terrific. How are we doing? Are you following along so far with me going back and forth like this? Yes? Okay, because I know it can be a little confusing. I'm doing what's in the course, using my own language, and then showing you the customizations as well. Okay, great. It sounds like, yes, clear, working, terrific. All right, let me jump back in again then. So once you know what's important to your ideal customer, you'll know how to speak like them, how to sell to them, how to motivate them to take action. And this is really a secret to growing your email list, is connecting with people on that emotional level. But how do you get this information? And that's where I'm going to go into some tips. You know the difference between demographics and psychographics, and that you need both, but you need to find that information. And you can get that data from different sources. And the first source, my favorite one, is to ask your audience, right? So run some interviews with your target audience. If you can do that with past or current customers, like your ideal customers, that's going to give you some of the best information. Ask them to answer your questions directly, or you can send out surveys. But you're going to get the best information when you ask them directly. And also, as you ask them questions, pay attention to the language they use in their responses. You're going to want to use the same language when you start writing your emails, because that creates that instant connection and rapport, creates a feeling of understanding. Because people buy from people they know, like, and relate to. And then observe your audience. Spend time where your targeted audience hangs out. Facebook groups are a perfect online starting place. You can find a group by searching on your topic of expertise and join that group to see what people are talking about. Obviously, that's only for open groups. Networking events, trade shows, professional meetings, conferences, those are all great in-person events where you can observe what's trending topics. And whether it's virtually on social media or in person, pay attention to the questions people ask, the common problems they share, even their likes and dislikes. And again, that's going to tell you a lot about them and show that you're paying attention to their wants and needs. So pausing again to make this bit unique. Now, I didn't make a lot of changes here other than using some of my own wording and language. I don't just read directly the script that's there, the notes. I use it as my guide and then add in or change the language a bit to make it a little less formal. I don't want to sound like I'm reading directly from something. So you can customize here also by just adding more ways about getting information. Like you can talk about how they could read blog post comments. They could ask in groups they belong to if they can do a survey. That's something you can do as well. but don't overcomplicate it since this is a beginner audience. If your audience is more experienced, you can have them go back and spend more time revisiting. So focus more on that, revisiting something they've done before in terms of a buyer persona, and really emphasize those current customer interviews more if it's people that have an established business. And really stress the importance of talking to customers and how to get over those fears, because a lot of people are a little bit afraid of getting on the phone, what they're going to hear. But everything you hear, even if it's that you need to change something, is going to give you more information about your customers and be able to paint a more detailed picture. And again, talk about your own experience, how you've gathered data. I've done surveys, I've talked to people, I've asked questions in my Facebook group, things like that. And I'm always learning more each time. If you can do something like that even before you run a course, even if you're not doing it live, and before you edit it, you're going to be able to tailor it a lot better as well. Even if it's just a survey, even if it's just a 1 or 2 question survey, you don't have to go create a survey with all these questions about demographics and psychographics and stuff. Keep it simple. And then ask more questions when you can get on the phone with people. I usually have a question at the end of a survey that says, can I get in touch with you? And then I'll reach out to some of those people and do some phone interviews as well. Okay. Interaction here, again, you can ask people what they've done, what they've used themselves in the past. Again, especially if you have an audience that has done this before, or if they have other ideas for methods. So again, add that into the chat and we'll keep an eye out for that as well. And those are things that you can add in. So jumping back in again. Your next step, your last step, is to actually name your ideal customer avatar. So this is something that makes it easier for you to remember what attributes make up their profile. And it also helps to humanize your avatar. It brings your character to life. And if you can find a picture that represents what they look like, that's going to help even more. It could even be a current customer, but your ideal is really going to be a mix of people, not just one person, because you do have a variety of customers, even though you're trying to be very specific. So if I pause again here for a second, making it unique here, you could include pictures of a picture of your current customer or pictures. Just make sure you get permission, because that would be a major problem if you show a picture of someone without actually getting their permission first. And give examples of your own again. So if you have a short, concise avatar, I wouldn't go into a very long, detailed one, or people will take too much of that and possibly give some ideas, but it might influence their own too much. People tend to copy it too much. And you could do just a summary of the whole persona and language people use. And remember to, again, address some concerns and challenges people have. If you get some pushback, encourage people to start small. Have them focus on one product or service, not trying, if they sell multiple ones, don't try and do an avatar for every single one. Start with just one. And if they have a real mix of people, they should focus on looking for commonalities. For instance, you might have half men, half women. My audience is pretty mixed, almost evenly divided, maybe a bit more women than men. So I look for more of the challenges that people have around time and content and delivering courses and wanting to serve people, things like that. And if your audience is similar to each other, again, you can let them survey each other as part of this, have something in the group. I see a lot of groups do that when it comes to them trying to really pin down their ideal customer. Or if you have a very big group, they can just post in the group, here's who my target audience is, can you fill in my short survey? And then often you can get that. And then making it interactive here again, you could do something fun and actually ask people, what's your avatar's name? So if you were giving your avatar a name now, what would you call it? So this can make it a little bit more fun. And you can give an example again of an actual written up avatar. You could do that on the worksheet, example of the worksheet, or you can share one here. So for example, I put one together here. I said, meet Rebecca. And this is an example. I added this slide to show people that you need to get inside the heads of your avatar. So this particular one, this Rebecca, could be the ideal customer avatar of an outsourcing expert or a VA or even a business coach, depending on the market you serve. So you can do one for your own audience and customize it for the course. I'll just read this one so you can see, because it's such a small slide. So meet Rebecca. She says, I'm so burnt out and getting sick of my business. It seems like every minute of my day, I'm just fighting to stay in one place. Sure, I'm making decent money, but that could fall apart at any time since everything is on my shoulders. I wish that I could just hand stuff off to someone else, but there's no way they could do it the way I want. Meanwhile, I never see my friends. My kids can't remember when I cooked a dinner last, and my husband has to drag me out of my office at the end of the day. And to top that all off, my weight keeps going up since I don't have time to exercise. It'd be so great to just be able to take off when I want without worrying my clients are going to disappear or a crisis is going to be waiting for me when I get back. So that's an example of one that I just quickly wrote up that, you know, like I said, could be something for an outsourcing expert, but it's more about their feelings and frustrations for this particular person. And yes, there's a little bit of me in there too, though I have some outsourcing I already do. So just moving on again, it's time to wrap up the module and go into the conclusion. So we're almost done. Now, defining your target audience, as you've seen, is crucial to growing your email list. By creating that ideal customer avatar, you're going to be able to tailor your content and reach the right people who are interested in your business. If you really want to achieve success in email marketing, don't miss this step. And we're going to refer to this ideal customer avatar throughout the remainder of the course on how to build an email list from scratch. Pause again, make this interactive a little bit, and then firstly, before you make it interactive, you might want to give some extra encouragement, address fears and concerns like I talked about before. But then you're wrapping up by actually asking questions before you go into the activity. So again, this is if you're doing it live. So face-to-face, you're not going to have this in a recording, but you can always in the recording send an email afterwards asking for questions. Tell them, you know, if you do want to set up a live Q&A, tell them when it's going to be. So that's the sort of thing you can add there. But otherwise, this is more for live. So do please put your questions in. I'm going to be looking out for those as well. And then you'll jump back into the action step. So the next step is to go ahead and complete your ideal customer avatar. And you're going to be able to download that at the end here. We're going to put it into the handouts. Okay, so we created a branded version of that, and you can grab that at the end. All right, we're not going to complete that live during this webinar, but that's the next step to go and do that. All right, and I'll show you that in a second as soon as we finish up here. So let me just finish up by talking customizations in terms of delivery options here. So if you're doing it face-to-face, I talked about that a little. That's where you're going to be able to get the most interaction, but obviously that's the hardest thing for most people to do, to actually attend something face-to-face. Involves taking time out from their day, possibly traveling. That's not always an option unless it's a local seminar or meetup, things like that. But when it comes to doing the activity, if you are doing it face-to-face, you can have them do that initial customer avatar and then pair people up so they can share and get immediate feedback. That's really great to do because it gives them a first litmus test of whether they're on the right track and whether it makes sense or they're too broad. So, and people learn from each other all the time. If you're doing this via a webinar, when it comes to the activity, tell them about the activity they need to do and then say, okay, I'm going to we're going to do another session next week where we're going to share, maybe ask some people to talk about their challenges and share their avatars they came up with. Or if you have a community, you could do it there. And that includes if you're doing it as an online course or an ebook and you set up a Facebook group, you can tell people to share it in the community and again, let them survey each other. You can also offer help via email. And if you're delivering it as an email course, you can offer help there and ask people to share. So it is nice to have that Facebook group because you can ask people to share there. But these are just a few different options for that activity. And again, you could do your own example related to your audience in terms of that worksheet. All right. So that is everything in terms of customizing this one module. I am going to add the email, or sorry, the link here. This is just a wrap up of a demo of one of the 9 modules from the course. And I'll show you some differences here in a second in terms of the branded versus unbranded versions. But this is the link you're going to need where you can get I think it's 67% off for this month. All right, and tell me, was this helpful? Wasn't this as well? Leave me some comments. If you're watching this as a replay, you can send an email or post in the page in the group. And I'm just going to go back for a second here and stop sharing and turn my webcam back on. Hello again. Do you guys want to see what the branded and unbranded versions look like of these slides? So I can pull that up. Was helpful? Yes? Okay, let me show you what I've got here. I'm going to close out a few things. So sorry, this will just take 1 second for me to pull some stuff up. All right, so right now you can see this is the branded version. I'll go up to the top. So what we did here is, I'll open up the unbranded one as well. So let me just find that as well. So unbranded, can you see this? Thanks, Boyd. I have a good radio voice. Oh, there's my next career. All right, so this is unbranded, this particular module. You'll see we left the logo place and all this. It doesn't have a lot of character to it because we're leaving it for you to add your own style to it. But what we've done in the past is Sophia set up a template with these different styles. We just added this one for me to point out where I've customized things. And then we grab some images in places from Unsplash. But there aren't a ton of images because we're using some of the styles instead, because it does take some time to find images. And that's one of those things you can outsource. So that's what ours looks like. And if I go into the design, you'll see we have a theme on that, but I can, for any slide, she just cuts the text and then you can pick a layout for those slides. Where is it? Here, layout. Whenever you want to do a different layout, you can see we have a bunch of different ones, and those are all just a template that Sophia set up. It's pretty straightforward. It's just some colors and stuff, but once you can get someone to set that up for you and then use that over and over again and immediately have something very branded looking with our logo and different colors and styles and stuff. And then if I look at that unbranded one again, you'll see just how different it is. We also cut out some of the text. And in here, let me see if you can see where the speaking notes are. Those are the things that I used as a guide, and then I didn't read them precisely. What I did is use some of my own language in there, and I edited it a little bit. So I left most of that in and then just spoke to it and added some examples. So it's not that you're going in and really changing things, though of course you can. You don't have to you could call it a buyer persona. You can call it a customer profile. You can call it whatever you want and go through and just do a search and replace. But that's what it looks like unbranded. So hopefully that helps give you an idea there. And again, it wasn't me rewriting things. It was more adding and explaining more. And if I show you the worksheet, So unbranded, I hope you can still hear me. I'm turning my head away, I know. All right, so unbranded, you can see this is the whole workbook, right? We have a little bit of how to use the action guide. All right, so what we did for this one is pulled out just those few pages, which you can see are unbranded, and then I'll open up the branded one, which you'll be able to download. And then this is just one, here, I have it on the other screen. This is just one worksheet. So if you're doing, say, an online course, you can separate out each one and make that a download, save it as a PDF. And look, we added a call to action at the end. Always good to add your call to action, especially if you do pull out one module and use it like a lead magnet. So this is a download here. And if you're doing it like a webinar, like I'm doing now, you can actually add that in your handout. So if you look up in the upper right, there's a picture of a little person, and switch over to that. Sophia, can you share that handout? I'm in Demio, and there's actually a place where we can put in handouts and share resources and stuff. So Sophia just went into our little backstage. I'd already uploaded it, and now you can download it directly there. And then if you want to come back to the chat, click on that little chat bubble, and there's a button there to see the how to build an email list from scratch. So I'm going to go back to the chat, and that is that. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so anyone have any other questions before I wrap this up? Got Deborah. You know, look at the timing on this, by the way. This whole thing was 43 minutes, and I just was doing one module and explaining as I go. So if you're doing just this one module on its own and doing it live, where you're adding in some of that explanation like I'm doing, that's about how long it's going to be, because my explanations were the sorts of things that you would add as well. Maybe you'll have some more interaction and discussion depending on your audience again, or you might not, in which case it might be a little bit shorter. If you're doing this face-to-face in a classroom, it's going to be even longer because you're going to add that activity in and actually have people do it. If you're recording it, like maybe I'm doing now, but without any sort of interaction, if you're still adding all that explanation, it's probably going to be a little bit less. Maybe it's going to be half an hour. And I do recommend that at the end, you get on like this on camera and send people off, give them some motivation. Hey, go ahead and do this. Let me know if you have any questions. You have my email address. You have our support address. You can drop that into the chat as well. And good luck with it. I can't wait to see what you do. You know, so end your webinar, your recording with that as well. And again, that's going to make it really unique. People are going to connect with you. They're not connecting with some text that was created. They're connecting with you, your voice, your personality, your examples, things like that. Yes, there will be a recording. Okay, so if you guys have any other questions, did I miss anything in here? What courses do we have around video marketing for us video producers? We do have something on camera video. And there's actually a course, I don't know if it's something where you're looking to learn how to do video yourself, Boyd, I'm not sure. But if you are looking to actually create your own, then I did a course with Debbie Benstein, who's going to be on a Facebook Live with me next week. And it was called Bite-Sized Video Boosters. And that's for real beginner people who just want to start doing some video quickly. It's not live right now because we have to redo the sales page and some other stuff. But if you do want a link to that, I can share it and get kind of a backdoor link. Oh, you want to teach others or a course with video. Okay, so you might, or product creation with video. Well, we have the one on camera video, but if you want something more specific, we take requests and often build our next courses based on what our customers tell us they want. So, and we're building out big ones each month and looking at how they fit together into a curriculum. So like this email list one and the one from last month on how to create a realistic content marketing plan, we laid out a curriculum of other courses that go with it. So if you have something specific, send us an email via support@contentsparks.com, or to me, Sharon@contentsparks.com, Sharon with a Y. In case you didn't notice, not everyone does. And we'll look at that and give me some details. Let me know what you're thinking about. And Kate, who's here still, I think, our instructional designer, that really helps with all of it, because we kind of brainstorm together and sit down and talk about what makes the most sense and how something should flow. And there's a lot of work that goes into that first outline and development of each course. Boyd, you asked, explain the plan a little more over how things connect. Can you just tell me a little more about what your question is here? Because what we've done is in the last couple ones, we put in a file that's called curriculum. And it has, it's also on the sales page for each. It's a pop-up near the bottom. And what it says is a list of 12 courses. Some are bigger, some are smaller, and what the high-level outcomes are for each. And we put them in an order that could make sense as a curriculum. Now, again, this always depends on your target audience, what their skills are, what they already know. You might have to add stuff. You might decide some things are too advanced. But remember, of course, if you're doing, say, a series of 12, as they get further on, they're not going to be so beginner any longer. They're going to be more advanced. So you can keep stepping up the level. What else have you got? Email course this month, last month content, the big plan. I'm still not, I'm sorry, Boyd, I'm still not entirely sure what the question is. Our big plan overall, over the course of the year, is that what you're asking about? Because we're looking to fill in gaps in our offerings and see how they fit together. So when we look at something like email lists, we think about, well, what else do people need to know? Actually, the suggested curriculum that we put together for both the email list one and the content plan one has to do with content. And then we're going to be putting together one in the summer on how to start a new business, like getting started. And that brings in ones that we already have with filling in a gap of something we don't have. So, okay, you got it. When I say curriculum, the curriculum idea is doing a series that all fits together. So it's, I use the term curriculum like it's a class, but that really means it's a series that's building up their knowledge on some topic. And that's why it's sort of flexible, that whatever we suggest isn't necessarily the one you're going to use, but it makes sense. We put together something that makes sense. All right. And the one next month is more about service providers. So we're going to have different ones put together. And again, we're going to keep looking for gaps in our grand plan for the business. Look for those gaps and fill them. So if you've got a suggestion that you see something missing, please let us know. And let's see, did I miss any questions here? I'm just going to scroll back up and see. Is there some content relating to lean startup principles? No, unfortunately not. I know I talked about the lean startup as an example of what my audience, my fictitious audience would create, but no, not lean startup. It might be a little bit too advanced. Depends on your audience again and who you're talking to. So we'll look into it. Maybe it's something that we can include. Kate, can you make a note of that? Because that might be something we could just refer to on a very simple, high level in the course that we're working on for July on getting a new business off the ground, what you need to do to get started. So video course, templates. What was the question about templates? Do we have anything about creating templates? Iris, are you looking for information on how to create your own templates? Because that's something we have a little bit on. Sophia's done some tutorials that she can share. Jan, are there any metrics for which method is the best for an accurate avatar? Metrics for an avatar. I'm not sure how you would use metrics. It's really about testing it out. You could test it out with people who are your ideal customers and see whether it resonates with them. The real test is whether it works, whether people are buying your offers and opening your emails. If they're not, then there's a disconnect somewhere. It's not always, it partly might be the sales copy isn't resonating, but it may be that you haven't pinpointed it. So I would always test it with who your ideal market is, some real people, and see if it resonates. I don't think there's a real measurement for that. Kate Cobb, if you're here and can weigh in on that, if I'm wrong, then if you have a different opinion, let me know. Specific startup content is helpful. Jan, you're asking if it's trial and error. You know, I don't like to say, I'm very risk averse. So I don't like to go out there and throw things out that I'm really unsure about. I like to be maybe 75% sure for starters, and then get going, just go at I keep the budget really low and get started so that I can get feedback. And then as I get feedback, I can increase it and get it more precise and keep changing things. But like I said, I'm not a big total trial and error, but you need to take action and just get something out there and see whether it works. I wouldn't invest a ton of money in anything until I've tested it. Does that make more sense to you? You might find that entrepreneurs in general aren't as big risk takers as you might think. Actually, pretty risk averse because we like to test things out. At least that's my opinion. Let's see, Gerd. Many people say that their problem is to stay motivated in the process of starting a business. A course for that. Okay, so more on the motivation, mindset, how to keep yourself on track, things like that. Okay, so Kate, if you're still there, then Kate Cobb, if you're still there also, let's keep a note of that for that course on startup, staying motivated. What's hard for me is working with beginners and advanced people. It's really two different avatars, all right? So you can't put those together into one. And I understand, Jen, because I also have a lot of the same at the beginner and the advanced, and you need to decide initially who your ideal is and focus on them and focus on one of your offers. So if you really think you can help the advanced people most, then do your first avatar on them and focus on that and tie it to one offer. And then you can always create another one, but you don't want to be spreading yourself too thin between multiple different avatars, or you're not going to serve any of them well. And also, there's another thing you should remember there. All because you have an avatar that's a specific person, like say it's the advanced people, there are others who you're going to attract because they want to be that person. And this is what happened with Apple. You know, they created their ideal customers. I don't remember the specifics, but they're young and hip and trendy. And yet look at who buys. A lot of the people buying Apple products are older because what? They like that feeling of being young and trendy and hip also. So remember, you're not going to be turning away people. You're going to be attracting the people that want to be like that. So that's important. Don't look for the commonalities between them. Don't try and spread yourself. Let's see. Jan, you're not risk averse? Okay, I am. Kate, I always ask, would you like to be stuck in an elevator with this person? If the answer is no, then they're not for you. That's a really good point. I like that. I'm going to remember that. All right. So any last questions? I'm going to keep hanging out and looking at this. I'm going to scroll up and make sure I didn't miss anything. What else? Nope. All right. Well, I'll keep looking out. If you're watching this as a replay, You can send email questions in as well, or post in the group or on the page. I'll try and post the recording in both places. And I'm also going to offer this as what's called a live replay, which Demio does. So if you're watching that, that's just where you didn't register initially for the live one, but you registered to watch the replay, and there should be a place there to send in questions also. So that's a cute little nice thing with Demio. And that's it. Yeah, Sophia, if you can show that link again, make sure, I think you just click on the little person at the top if you want to see that link. Otherwise, when I close things out here, it will redirect to the page for the How to Build an Email List from Scratch, which is the offer this month that ends at the end of the month. So we're doing one per month. So if you have any questions about that too, just let me know. Learning experience, the best learning experience is failing. That's true, but succeeding also is a great learning experience. So let's not focus too much on the failing. You have to do both, fail, succeed, and keep building up. All right, hope this was helpful, guys. Again, if you want me to do this again or add anything to that, have feedback on what would be helpful next time, let me know. And otherwise, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for being here.